have the money, take it away.
TV, Jack.
Why is all this happening?
Could have blown that thing from Pacoima.
Get up, you got nowhere to go.
You thought the movie Speed was about a bomb on a bus, and the main character, played by Keanu Reeves, has to dismantle the bomb and defeat the bad guy. Well, that is what is happening, but it's not what the movie is about. If we dig a little deeper into the numerology and symbolism, Speed is not so much an action movie, it's a modern retelling of the Enlightenment of Jesus Christ. Our hero is called Jack Traven, an LAPD police officer, and when you translate the letters of Jack Traven into numbers, you get 33. 33 signifies the Christ energy. It's the energy that curls up around your spine, touching on each of your 33 vertebrae, and it's also called Kundalini energy. It snakes up from your first chakra all the way up to your third eye. And that's when you can truly see. Jack, at one point in the movie, specifically mentions the spine.
I'm gonna rip your spine out, I swear to God.
A line that so happens to be spoken at 81 minutes and 33 seconds into the movie. Jack drives a car with the license plate 646 TEZ. Now, Tez in Hindi means fast. So that's a nod to the title of the movie. And 646 reduces to 7. Jesus Christ reduces to 7. And, as most people are well aware of, in the Bible, Jesus died when he was 33. That's also why Jack gets on bus line 33. And that's not some funny coincidence, because they could have used the actual bus line. The 33 is actually a local LA Metro line between Santa Monica and downtown Los Angeles via Venice Boulevard. The Santa Monica Blue Bus Express line between Santa Monica and downtown is the 10, which operates via I-10. So the producers and production designers went out of their way to use 33. The bus also has a bus number, 2525, which also points to Jesus Christ. Now, Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, the son of Heli, the son of, the son of, the son of. What does this have to do with 2525? Well, you could read 2525 as 7, 7, 77, and Jesus was the 77th in line. And if that isn't enough, Luke chapter 3, verse 23 starts with, "Now Jesus himself began his ministry at about 30 years of age." How old do you think Keanu Reeves was when the movie came out? Well, he was born September 2nd, 1964. Speed came out June 10th, 1994. That would put Keanu at about 30 years of age. And it actually makes perfect sense that he's a couple of months short, because Jack Traven hasn't quite started his ministry yet. He's still in training. And he's not being taught by a guru or someone who's enlightened. No, he's being taught his lessons by opposition. His partner, Harry Temple, played by Jeff Daniels, is the one training him. He's the teacher. He's the expert.
What do you think? You're the expert, I just work here.
Harry is by the book. He's all about protocol and hierarchy. And this is what a temple is. It's a place with a lot of rules. Now, Jack doesn't want to blindly follow orders. He wants to trust his intuition.
Harry, this is wrong. He's gonna blow it anyway.
Why?
I don't know, gut feeling.
Right now, Mac outranks your gut, so we sit.
Now, their conversation resembles the time Jesus was asked to explain himself in the temple. Now when he came into the temple, the chief priests and the elders of the people confronted him as he was teaching and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? And who gave you this authority?" That's something Harry would say. You don't have any authority, so why are you even thinking of a solution? Now, is that a bad thing? Is Harry a bad guy? No. It is because of Harry's opposing force that Jack further develops his intuitive skills.
How much do you think that elevator weighs?
Jack, come on.
Now, in the script, Harry says it a little bit differently. Jack, how much do you think this elevator weighs? Harry, Christ, Jack. Christ, Jack. Probably a little on the nose, that line, which is why they changed it. And there's another scene in the script in which Jack goes biblical. During their celebration in the bar, Jack is forced to give a speech to everybody. Jack, okay, I'd like to thank all the little people, many boos. I'm fuzzy on names, but I know you're all very tiny. Harry, you're a god. I don't know. Here's to tiny pension and a cheap gold watch. Harry calls Jack Christ. Jack calls Harry God. It's getting pretty obvious at this point. Now, Harry occasionally gives Jack a pop quiz.
All right, pop quiz.
When Jack doesn't give the right answer and solves a hypothetical situation by shooting the hostage,
Shoot the hostage.
Harry is shocked.
You're deeply nuts, you know that? Shoot the hostage.
Because intuitive people, people who think outside the box, appear crazy to people who are still in the box. Now, when Harry falls into the hands of the bad guy, becomes a hostage himself, he says,
Shoot the hostage.
so at the end of this first part of the movie, Harry's gone from, that's crazy, that's nuts, to, this is actually a pretty good idea given the circumstances. But he's still not fully convinced. He's still hanging on to his old beliefs, and he calls it luck.
Guts will get you so far and then they'll get you killed. Luck runs out sooner or later.
Luck is a word non-believers use to make sense of the world, even though luck doesn't explain anything. But to Jack, it's a different story. He was proven right. His intuition has been proven right. And he's ready to go to the next phase. A phase in which he's going to be on his own. And that's exactly what happens. He leaves the temple, and that's when he gets his ultimate test. He's up against the villain of the movie, Howard Payne. And not just Pain, P-A-I-N, because it's through pain that Jack grows, but also Payne, P-A-Y-N-E, from a medieval given name or nickname derived from Latin, paganus, meaning heathen, pagan. A heathen doesn't believe in Christ, so that's the perfect antagonist in your story. And Howard Payne reduces to 13. Now, in the script, his name was Howard Fisk, and it was changed pretty late in the game because his police uniform still got the name tag Fisk on it. Howard Fisk reduces to 6. And this is not the only time they changed a number in the script to the number 13 in the movie. Because how many people got on the elevator in the script? Well, what we have is 15 people on the express elevator just below floor 30. Well, apparently they lost 2 people along the way, because this is what he says in the movie.
All right, gentlemen, what we have here are 13 passengers in an express elevator below floor 30.
Jesus, 1, and his disciples, 12, brings a total of 13. And there are a lot of 13s in the movie. There's a news station, 13 Real News. There's the subway train, line 13. Jack stops by the firehouse, which reduces to 13. Jack looks at his watch. It's 8:05, 13. Go ahead, make my day. on Harry's desk reduces to 13. Auxiliary power substation reduces to 13. At the end of the movie, we see 203 working days without a lost time accident. Let's keep it up. Now, 203 working days, but including the weekends, comes down to 283 days. 283 reduces to 13. Bomb on bus reduces to 31, the mirror image of 13. Bus 2525 appears on screen at precisely the 31-minute mark of the movie.
Who's here? He could have blown that thing from Pacoima.
Pacoima reduces to 31. And how many buses were used during the production? Well, producer Mark Gordon got the number for you.
We're using basically 12 buses for one picture bus that we see in the movie.
And then there's the body count, the people who die on screen. These are the security guard, Bob, Helen, the subway driver, Harry and the rest of his SWAT team, that's 8 people in total, and Howard Payne, 13. Now let's go back to Howard Payne. One of his characteristics is his left thumb is missing. In the symbolism of the hand, the thumb is the symbol of the child. The index finger is the mother and the middle finger is the father. The thumb and the first 2 fingers raised is the hand of blessing. So what Jack is doing here,
Remove these people, he'll see!
when he points at the news helicopters that are hovering above the bus, that's the hand of blessing. Whereas Howard Payne doesn't have his left thumb anymore. He lost his inner child. He lost his innocence, you could say. So when and where do we first meet Howard? Well, right in the beginning of the movie, first the camera moves all the way down from the 41st floor to the basement, where we end on this shot. Caution, 14. So in one continuous shot, we go from 41 to 14. The numbers mirror each other. Again, this is no coincidence given the building has 46 floors. So wouldn't it make more sense to go down from 46? But no, they start at 41. 41 symbolizes the upper world, and 14, its mirror image, symbolizes the underworld. It's the subconscious. It's the place you don't want to look. And because you don't put your light on it, there's plenty of darkness for all kinds of creatures to hide in. That is where we meet Howard Payne. The door that opens to the basement reads basement level access, which also reduces to 14. Now Howard is wearing a uniform with the name Atlas on it. The Greek god Atlas is known for carrying the world on his shoulders. So you could relate that to Howard because he's planted a bomb and is seemingly in charge, holding the world in his hands. He's got the world by the balls. However, it could also be a reference to the War of the Titans. In Greek mythology, the War of the Titans was a 10-year battle consisting of most of the Titans, the older generation of gods, fighting against the Olympians, the younger generations. Atlas was an important leader on the side of the Titans. So that's what the name Atlas symbolizes. The fight between the older generation, Howard Payne, who used to be a cop, and the younger generation, Jack Traven, which is a little more emphasized in the script. Howard Fisk says, 20-second delay on the dead man's stick. I'm in the air duct when it blows. Did you think I wouldn't have prepared? I spent 2 years setting up my elevator job. 2 years. I invested myself in it. You couldn't understand the commitment I have. A child, Jack. You're a child. Not only does that make it a bit more obvious that this is a fight of old versus new, it's also a perfect example of projection. He hates the thing he himself has lost. And another example of Howard being the exact opposite of Jack is when we get the image of him standing in front of all of his TVs and monitors. It's a mirror image of the Last Supper. He's filmed from behind, he's in shadow, and he's surrounded not by people, but by projections of people and artificial people. It's not real. In other words, it's cosmetic. And here's another one. Howard eventually gets his money, but when he opens the bag, a paint bomb explodes. The paint has a purple color. Purple is a royal color. It's also the color of the crown chakra. The chakra which serves as the bridge between physicality and spirituality. And it's this particular color that blows up in the face of the non-believer. So Howard resides in the deep unconscious. So when and where does Jack come from? Obviously, a star announces his arrival. The business people step into the elevator and we get a close-up of the button and we see a star. Below the star, we see a couple of dots in Braille language. It spells out M-A. Why is that significant? Because the number 41 equates to letter M-A. It represents the highest authority or the supreme one in his or her field or profession. The two dots underneath the L equate to the number 9 or the letter I, which is the 9th letter of the alphabet. Persons born on 9 are born to fight in their life. The fight can be mental or physical or both. In numerology, number 9 borns have the passion to even sacrifice their lives for their country. Now, with that button pushed, with that star lighting up, Jesus would descend down from heaven, right? Well, Jack does exactly that. His car comes flying out of the sky. Jesus has landed. His journey starts with a star and it ends with a star, because at the very end of the movie, Starline Tours moves into view, blocking the subway carriage, and in so doing serves as an almost literal bookend to the story. And I guess that's also why they don't say cheers when they're in the bar. No, they say Mazel Tov.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
Which is not only a Jewish salutation, which makes sense since Jack hasn't started his ministry yet, so everybody's still Jewish, but Mazel Tov literally means good star. Now let's talk about Annie, because it's all about Annie, man. Christianity talks about the Holy Trinity as being the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. You could also interpret the Holy Trinity as the mind, the gut, and the heart. Howard represents the intellect. He's the mind. Jack represents intuition. He's the gut. And Annie represents love. She's the heart. So the whole movie is about the mind and the ego trying to capture the gut, trying to rule over intuition. Now this will never work. The mind doesn't have that kind of power. Now Harry is also mind. That's why he gets defeated. If one mind goes head to head with another mind, one of them is going to lose. But when it's mind against gut, the gut always wins. Doesn't mean it isn't a struggle. So Jack goes up against Howard, and the only way to defeat Howard is by trusting his intuition. And when he finally surrenders, when he fully surrenders to the last part of the subway track that isn't even finished, and he might die, but he decides to stay on anyway, he's going through the hardest part of his journey. But then he shoots up out of the underworld into the light, and he's reborn. We're witnessing a birth, a rebirth, and he's reborn in love. Now Annie is just Annie. she doesn't have a last name. She's basically half a person, because together with Jack, they become one. That's also why she's called Annie, because Annie reduces to 25, which is half of the number of the bus. And I believe Annie is a modern interpretation of Mary Magdalene. When Jack is reborn, the first one to see him is Annie. Now, when he rose early on the first day of the week, he appeared first to Mary Magdalene. And for the longest time, Mary Magdalene was sort of seen by the church as a sinful woman. And Annie is quite a sinner. She loves to smoke.
Just give it to your butt, Annie.
Okay, it's gone, it's gone.
She loves to chew gum, and she lies to people.
I'm such a yokel.
Jeez.
There, I said it.
You know what? I got gum on my seat.
She loves her car.
I love my car. I miss my car.
She's got her driver's license revoked.
I should probably tell you that I'm taking the bus because I have my driver's license revoked.
She's pretty intense.
Relationships that start under intense circumstances, they never last.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I've done extensive studying on this.
And she loves sex.
We'll have to base it on sex then.
In 1969, Pope Paul VI removed the identification of Mary Magdalene with Mary of Bethany and the sinful woman from the general Roman calendar. But the view of her as a former prostitute has persisted in popular culture. So in 1994, that was probably still the case. And if the movie's about defeating the mind, trusting your intuition, and by doing so, finding true love, then indeed it's all about Annie. Or Mary. You could say this story is dedicated to Mary. And hey, that's in the movie too.
Just slow down just a bit, all right? We don't have to go so fast, do we?
You're going to tell me that license plate is a coincidence.
This is not a very good plan.
Have faith, sister.
Oh, Christ.
Now, there are three main characters who make up a holy trinity, so the number 3 should be very important.
Bomb's already taken out cables. Bomber wants $3 million or he blows the emergency brakes.
He jumped the gun. We had 3 minutes left.
Okay, all right, just stay calm. What else?
3 triggers.
30 minutes.
You know it took me 3 hours just to get here from the airport.
Well, maybe we'll get off on the 3rd floor. 30 more years of this, you get a tiny pension and a cheap gold watch.
Not just Jesus and Mary are in this, they also incorporated the parable of the Good Samaritan in the story, albeit in a slightly different form. Sam, the bus driver, is a good, kind man.
You are a good, kind man. One day people can write songs about you.
Then Jesus answered and said, "A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell among thieves, who stripped him of his clothing, wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead." Jesus is talking about a traveler, and a bus driver is someone who goes from place to place, and Sam, in this case, falls among thieves when he gets shot by one of the passengers. They cannot stop the bus, so he's bleeding out in one of the passenger seats. It's Jack who's the one who shows mercy on him and negotiates with Howard to let him off the bus. Not Sam, but Jack, in this case, is the Good Samaritan. Now, the bus has to drive at least 50 miles an hour or the bomb explodes. 25 plus 25 equals 50. A gold watch symbolizes a golden anniversary, which is 50 years. And the number 50 symbolizes deliverance or freedom from a burden. Remember the star in the elevator? Next to it, we see the letter L, which is a Roman numeral meaning 50. The star represents Jack's arrival. The L represents what he's going to be doing. Free us from a burden. There's also 50 cops waiting in the basement.
There's gonna be 50 cops waiting for you in the basement.
And when they're driving on the highway, there is a section missing.
How big is the section?
50 feet!
Now, they're able to fly over 50 feet with a bus, but that's only possible, of course, because Jesus is on board. And if you think you've seen all the references to Jesus by now, you are mistaken. Here is Jack taking a Jesus pose. There is a cross in the window behind the black and yellow crane. When the first bus in the movie blows up, a payphone starts ringing. It's Howard. Now, what is the first thing Jack says when he answers the phone? And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly. Then his sweat became like great drops of blood falling down to the ground. Luke 22:44. 22 plus 44 makes 66. While doing his Jesus pose, in the left corner we see handouts with information about 3 separate bus lines: 7 and 8, which reduces to 6, and 33, which reduces to 6. And then there's the creepy clown opposite the firehouse. He's got a drop of blood underneath his left eye. 2 years earlier, we saw something similar in the best music video ever made, Guns N' Roses' November Rain, in which we see Jesus crying blood. There's another Jesus pose in the beginning of the movie. This time, it's an art piece, and it's a clear interpretation of Jesus on the cross. The only thing is, this figure misses its head, which is exactly what needs to happen. Jack has to stop trusting his mind and start trusting his intuition. That's why, at the end of the movie, the representation of his mind, which is Howard Payne, literally loses his head. Now, as you may know, Jesus dies on the cross, and he does so voluntarily. From that time, Jesus began to show his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised the 3rd day. For whoever desires to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And yes, this is also in the movie, or at least a version of it. This is when Jack tries to dismantle the bomb himself and lowers himself underneath the bus. Jack voluntarily does this, knowing it's beyond dangerous, and then all kinds of crazy things happen. People think he's dead, maybe the bus ran him over, but he hangs on, and through an access panel in the floor, he's pulled out. He is resurrected.
How many lives you got, man?
Implying Jack had indeed died. If we take a look at the poster, and we take a look at the tagline of the movie, "Get ready for rush hour," this slogan is put on the poster in the shape of a cross. And now, for the real kicker, something that's been staring you in the face the whole time. What's the title of the movie? Think of it as a mirror. 33 points to Jesus. S, P, and D, or 1, 7, and 4, equal 12. So the actual title is Jesus and his 12 disciples. Now, for anyone who wants to get a bit more conspiratorial, there is some interesting numerology that seems to predict 9/11. First off, this is the official timeline for September 11, 2001. If you take the bus line, 33, and add the bus number, 77, you get 110. The World Trade Center towers both were 110 stories high. It happened in the year 2001. At the end of the movie, when the subway carriage is scraping through Hollywood Boulevard, we see the movie that's playing in the theater. 2001. A Space Odyssey, which came out in 1968. In that same year, 1968, the emergency telephone number 911 was first used. Now, to get on the bus, Jack commandeers a black Jaguar with the license plate Tune Man. When he looks at the speed he's driving at, we see a couple of interesting numbers. 11 and 9 and 127. World Trade Center 1, 2 and Building 7. Howard Payne wants his money by 11 a.m.
I want my money by 11 a.m.
The plane that they blow up has the name Pacific Courier Fright, which reduces to 11. Now, on 9/11, Flight 11 crashes into the first tower at 8:46 a.m. And while the bus is driving 56 miles per hour, that's another 11, the gold watch that's attached to the bomb shows the time of 8:46 exactly. Now, while everybody's waiting for Howard to show up and get his money, they're in a barber shop. We see haircut, razor cut, and shave. Haircut reduces to 8, razor cut reduces to 5, and shave reduces to 1. So that's 8:51 a.m., the time that Flight 77 is taken over.
He could have blown that thing from Pacoima.
Why does Harry mention the suburb Pacoima? Now, Pacoima is not really known for anything except for an accident involving 2 airplanes. On January 31st, 1957, a Douglas DC-7B was involved in a mid-air collision with a Northrop F-89 Scorpion and crashed into the schoolyard of Pacoima Junior High School. Located in Pacoima, a suburban area in the San Fernando Valley of Los Angeles. And I leave you with this.
You should have been a pilot.
Ow.
Now there's actually a lot more to point out, believe it or not, because this movie is loaded with symbolism. And I don't think it's the director who came up with all of this stuff. Jan de Bont came in to just make the movie that the studio wanted to make. Just like the actors, they came in, they were hired to do a job, and they did it. Now, some of the numerology and symbols are in the script, like the name Jack Traven and the number of the bus, but the majority of detail is not in the screenplay. The writer did not come up with it. So who did? Well, the ones who decide on the sets, locations, artwork, uniforms, little details, and so on, are the producer and the production designer. These people usually don't do interviews, are never asked to do interviews. But I bet producer Mark Gordon and production designer Jackson DeGovia would have a lot of interesting things to say. Dit was de Interdimensionale Talkshow, aflevering 84. Tot volgende keer. Now, in the beginning, Howard Payne demands $3 million. There's that 3 again. But then, after he blows up the first bus, he says,
2 years I spent setting up that elevator job.
And then he raises the amount.
This is about money due me, which I will collect. $3.7 million.
Jesus Christ reduces to 7. So now Jack is part of his game. Howard adds a $0.7 million to the amount. At the same time, we're dealing with another mirror, because 3.7 million is the mirror image of 2 years. 365 times 2 is 730.